Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari, and today my guest is an honored Arlingtonian who is a big part of why Arlington is such a sustainable and livable community. He's also the Director of Space and Advanced Communication Research at George Washington University, as well as an author of a new book, and your new book is called Space Debris and Other Threats from Outer Space. Welcome, Joe.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. Now, tell us a little bit about this book that you wrote.
Well, it's a book that covers a variety of hazards from outer space, and the video we'll be seeing shows several parts of it. But this we're talking about tonight is about solar hazards and how what we call coronal mass ejections from the sun. That is a blast of ions that can hit the Earth's atmosphere and do very bad things. It can create power outages. It can create loss of satellites and a number of other things that could shut down our communication systems, our navigation satellites, and so on.
So we're about to watch that video, but I want our guests to not worry because you will offer some solutions as we come back. But let's go ahead and watch the video you brought.
The sun, one of the greatest wonders of the world. We rely on it as a friendly neighbor to light our world, and thus we sometimes forget what a raging nuclear fusion-based inferno it actually is. In late September 2013, part of a 200,000-kilometer-long filament that recently ripped through the sun's corona, burning.
Well, Joe, that's kind of frightening. The idea that all of this could happen and really change the way we live. Can you tell us about how a coronal ejection might have an impact on us here in Arlington?
Well, first of all, at the big level, the National Intelligence Council has put together 7 what they call black swan events that could really create major problems to planet Earth. And one of the 7s is a really massive coronal mass ejection like happened back in 1859, the so-called Carrington event. But more recently we've had other events like the Montreal event that happened as recently as 1989. Anyway, there are things that can be done about this, but we really do have to worry about power systems, loss of satellites, and other things that could create inadvertent changes to our infrastructure. When I chair the IT Commission here in Arlington, we have looked into things where we might be vulnerable. We have something called the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Network that controls our traffic lights, our water and sewerage, and so on. And we've tried to put into effect a better security system so that there couldn't be wrong signals. But if you had a powerful enough event, you could get a wrong signal that goes out through our SCADA system, for instance. That's just one example. But the key right now is to better understand what are the levels of threats and what we can do about it. And
now, I think it's important, though, for people to understand that we're not relying less, but more and more on computer systems as we integrate systems. So, I mean, it's not just our lights will go out, but I mean, it would be difficult for air traffic control to get us back on the ground. Is that the case?
Yes. In other words, there could be airline crashes. There could be a whole host of things that could go wrong.
So not just here in Arlington, but around the world.
Well, in the United States, around the world. And of course, it would really depend on sort of where the major strike occurs. The Earth's magnetic sphere tends to push these further north or south. So that, to a certain extent, is a little bit of protection that places like Montreal and Sweden and so on are perhaps the most vulnerable because of that.
So I'm grateful to know that
Right.
you're thinking about
Right.
this and working on this. Who else is working on this issue?
Well, the key thing is that there are two congressmen, particularly Congressman Sessions, has put a bill into Congress, 3410, that has passed Congress and is now to the Senate. And basically, it is requiring the Department of Homeland Security to do a much more intensive study of what are the threats from either solar flares or coronal mass ejections. And we have to worry about both. The solar flares, there the problems can be genetic mutation, and that's a big problem. We're already seeing in the south frogs with mutations coming from solar radiation.
My goodness.
And also from cancer in the extreme south of Australia, where I've been teaching in Adelaide. Skin cancers 40% elevated there. So
there's some
right,
protection.
right.
We can try to protect ourselves
Right.
topically, but
Right.
there are some initiatives in Congress that we need to follow and watch. Can you tell us what those are?
Well, as I say, the first thing in this bill is to ask the Department of Homeland Security to do a much better assessment of where our vulnerabilities are and what types of things could go wrong in terms of power outages, loss of satellites, and so on. So that's step number one. Know what the problem is.
Okay, we're going to pick up on the other steps that we need to take, as well as discussing some of the other cosmic hazards that we need to be concerned about in our next segment. I want to thank you, Joe, for coming here and starting this conversation. And viewers, I hope you will join us back for another discussion of space debris and other threats from outer space. And right now you can watch that on YouTube, and you saw that again. Just type in Cosmic Hazards on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Miriam Gennari. I'll see you next time. Back to the news desk.